The mistake happened in broad daylight, under a sky so clear it almost felt cruel. Ethan Cole hadn't planned to change anyone's life that afternoon, least of all his own. He was just trying to keep his world from falling apart for one more day. With one hand gripping a wrinkled note that read, Table 7, 12:30 p.m., and the other holding the small, warm fingers of his 6-year-old daughter, Ava, he stepped into the upscale downtown restaurant, already feeling out of place. His shirt was clean, but faded. His shoes had seen better years. His eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of a man who had been strong for far too long without a break. And in the next hour, by sitting at the wrong table, Ethan would unknowingly collide with a woman who had built walls so high, no one had ever dared to climb them. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of human connection, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Real Single Dad Life. Stories like this deserve to be felt, not just heard. Ethan didn't belong in places like this. That much was obvious. The polished floors reflected the sunlight streaming through tall glass windows, illuminating tables dressed in crisp white linen. Conversations were soft, refined, distant. It was a world built on confidence and control, two things Ethan felt slipping from his grasp every single day. But Ava didn't notice any of that. She never did. Her small sneakers squeaked softly as she walked beside him, her curls bouncing with each step, her bright eyes scanning everything with innocent curiosity. She tugged his hand gently, whispering that the place smelled like fancy pancakes, and for a moment, Ethan smiled. It had been a while since something as simple as her words could pull him out of his worries. He checked the note again, Table 7. The online ad had seemed strange, but desperate times didn't leave much room for doubt. Paid lunch opportunity, single parents preferred. That was all it said. No company name, no explanation, just a time and a place. Ethan needed it to be real. The rent was overdue. His freelance delivery jobs barely covered groceries. And every night when Ava fell asleep, he sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at numbers that never added up. So he took the chance. He walked deeper into the restaurant, scanning the tables until he saw the small brass number 7 placed neatly on one of them near the window. A woman was already sitting there. She looked nothing like what Ethan expected. Clara Whitmore sat with a posture so straight it seemed carved from stone. Her tailored navy suit fit her perfectly, her dark hair pulled back into a sleek bun. A tablet rested on the table beside her untouched glass of water, and her eyes, sharp, calculating, lifted the moment Ethan approached. She didn't smile. She didn't blink. She simply observed. Ethan hesitated. This couldn't be right. The ad said single parents. This woman looked like she owned half the city. But Ava tugged his hand again, whispering, "Daddy, that's number 7. And that was all it took. Ethan swallowed his doubt and stepped forward. He apologized quietly for being a little late and sat down across from her, pulling out the chair for Ava beside him. He expected confusion, maybe even annoyance. Instead, Clara studied him like a puzzle she hadn't expected to solve. She had agreed to this blind meeting reluctantly. Her assistant had insisted it would be different, something outside her usual world of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. Clara didn't believe in different. She believed in control, precision, predictability. And yet, sitting across from her now, was a man who clearly didn't belong in her carefully curated life. His hands were rough, his posture slightly guarded. His daughter leaned against him as if he were the safest place in the world. Clara's first instinct was to dismiss them. This had to be a mistake. But something stopped her. Maybe it was the way Ava smiled shyly at her, or the way Ethan's eyes held both exhaustion and quiet determination. Maybe it was the simple, undeniable fact that for the first time in years, Clara didn't know exactly what was about to happen next. And that unsettled her. Ethan cleared his throat, trying to steady himself. He wasn't sure how these things worked, but he knew he couldn't afford to mess it up. He spoke carefully, explaining that he saw the ad and wasn't entirely sure what was expected, but he was willing to listen, to do whatever was needed. Clara didn't interrupt. She watched him, and for reasons she couldn't explain, she didn't correct him. Minutes passed, and what began as an awkward misunderstanding slowly shifted into something else entirely. Ethan talked about Ava, not in a boastful way, but in the quiet, honest tone of a father who had built his entire life around his child. He spoke about late nights, school lunches, bedtime stories, and the constant balancing act of being both mother and father. Clara listened. At first, she listened out of curiosity. Then she listened because she couldn't stop. Because beneath Ethan's simple words was a depth of resilience she had never encountered in her world of polished executives and calculated ambition. Clara had built her empire from nothing. She knew struggle. She knew sacrifice. But Ethan's strength was different. It wasn't loud or aggressive. It didn't demand recognition. It simply existed. And it was unshakable. Ava, meanwhile, had completely erased any sense of formality. She asked Clara if she liked pancakes, if she had a favorite color, if she ever got scared of the dark. Questions no one had ever dared to ask Clara Whitmore. And instead of shutting them down, Clara found herself answering. Softly, carefully, honestly. By the time the waiter arrived, something had shifted. The cold, untouchable CEO who had terrified boardrooms full of seasoned investors was now sitting across from a single father and his daughter, listening to stories about school projects and bedtime fears. And for the first time in years, Clara felt something she couldn't control. Warmth. But reality had a way of catching up. Halfway through the meal, Clara's assistant rushed into the restaurant, her face pale with urgency. She stopped abruptly when she saw the scene, Clara sitting with a man and a child, laughing softly. It was unheard of. The assistant leaned down, whispering quickly. Clara's expression changed in an instant. The warmth faded. The walls came rushing back. She stood up abruptly. Ethan felt it immediately. That shift, that invisible barrier rising between them. Clara apologized, her tone returning to its usual sharp precision. She explained that there had been a misunderstanding. This wasn't the meeting he thought it was. There was no job. Ethan's chest tightened. Of course there was. He should have known. He nodded, forcing a small smile, trying to hide the disappointment that pressed heavily against his ribs. He thanked her for the meal, for her time, for everything. Ava looked confused. She didn't understand why they were leaving so suddenly. Clara hesitated. For a brief, fragile moment, she almost asked them to stay. But she didn't. Because people like her didn't make impulsive decisions. They didn't chase moments. They didn't risk vulnerability. So she turned and walked away. And Ethan left the restaurant with Ava's hand in his, stepping back into a world that hadn't changed at all. But something had. Because Clara Whitmore couldn't stop thinking about them. The rest of her day unraveled. Meetings blurred together. Numbers lost their meaning. Her mind kept returning to the way Ethan had looked at his daughter, the quiet strength in his voice, the warmth she had felt sitting across from them. It was irrational, unacceptable, and yet it was undeniable. That night, Clara sat alone in her penthouse, staring out at the city skyline. For years, she had believed she had everything: power, control, success. But now, for the first time, it felt empty. Meanwhile, Ethan sat at his kitchen table, the same worn surface, the same unpaid bills. Ava slept peacefully in the next room, clutching the small stuffed bear he had given her years ago. Ethan rubbed his face, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. The lunch had been a mistake. Just another reminder that hope was dangerous. But as he sat there, something unexpected happened. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. He hesitated before answering. And when he did, the voice on the other end changed everything. Clara didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She simply said that she wanted to see him again. This time, intentionally. And Ethan realized that sometimes the biggest changes in life don't come from perfect plans. They come from mistakes, from wrong turns, from sitting at the wrong table and meeting the one person who changes everything. As this story unfolds, if it's starting to touch your heart, take a moment to like, comment, and share. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need them the most. Weeks passed, and what began as a single unexpected meeting slowly transformed into something neither of them could have predicted. Clara found herself stepping into a world she had never known, one filled with school pickups, grocery lists, and quiet evenings where success wasn't measured in profits, but in laughter. Ethan, in turn, found himself seen in a way he hadn't been in years, not as a struggling single father, but as a man of strength, resilience, and quiet dignity. But not everything was easy. Clara's world pushed back. Her colleagues questioned her choices, investors doubted her focus, whispers spread. And Ethan felt it too, the weight of being pulled into a world that didn't feel like his own. There were moments when it almost broke them. Moments when the differences seemed too great. But each time, they came back to the same truth. That connection isn't built on perfection. It's built on understanding, on patience, on the courage to stay when walking away would be easier. The turning point came on an ordinary afternoon. Ava had a school event, a small performance she had been practicing for weeks. Ethan was there, of course, but so was Clara. And when Ava stepped onto that stage, scanning the crowd, her eyes lit up when she saw both of them sitting side by side. In that moment, something became clear. This wasn't just a coincidence anymore. It was a choice. And for Clara, it was the most important choice she had ever made. Before we reach the end, if this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Your support truly means everything. Special request. Comment below, second chances are real, if you believe that one unexpected moment can change a life forever. Because sometimes, it only takes one wrong table to find exactly where you belong.